Lakhs of students around the country are expecting, wanting or desirous of a placement at the end of their studies, but how many actually get it? There's of course there's a big gap between demand and supply, but let's just speak to some of the students today to try and get a sense of what the process is like, and also to top recruiters to try and understand what it is that they are looking for. Why is the gap there beyond demand and supply? Is it also between the great expectations and the reality that recruiters are faced with? We're at, of course, the prestigious Faculty of Management Studies, where we're joined by some of their students and also some others from Delhi University. Thanks all for speaking to us. I was speaking to you earlier, and you said that the entire process is actually, the whole process of going through placements, etc., is actually quite scary, even though it's worked out really well for you, but it is quite scary. So describe to us what about it is so frightening.
Well, so as most people who have just passed out from an MBA college would agree that this is a very grueling process, because at the end of the day, this is the career that will span for the next 20-25 years. It's not just one job that you're going for. And secondly, it all happens so fast because most colleges are going for a structured process now, in which you have 50 companies, 100 companies coming in a span of 4 to 5 days. So essentially, even if somebody goes through a rejection, there is actually no time to recover from that. You just have to brace yourself for the next company which is there and make sure that you put in your best foot forward. So that's why it becomes essential, very, very essential, so as to bear the pressure in the right and the most optimal way, so as to get the best result. Because this is very important. This is why you've come to an MBA. Even though it's about knowledge and several other things, at the end of the day, placements are the most critical factor, right, and the reason for coming to an MBA.
That's actually quite candid, because at the end of the day, yes, there are all those who would say we came here for knowledge and we came here to expand our skills and to see, but yes, even I have always believed that at the end of the day, this is what you're here for. Now, we've got the hot shots here from KPMG and Tech Mahindra, and you're smiling along. So you're of course saying, Mr. Sethi, that you agree that at the end of the day, to expect that you're going to get that job is natural. But like you said, there's very little time to even absorb a rejection if it comes along. So you just keep going with the flow and keep hoping for the best. Is that what you believe is the way to do it?
No, I agree with him that it's quite a tough and a grueling process, going through so many interviews and no time for recovering from any of the rejections which take place, because results probably get announced the same day or probably the next day in a short period of time. It is very, very difficult. But I think one of the answers to that could be, you got to be picking up the right companies, okay, rather than appearing for too many interviews. Probably you will have to be very, very selective and do the right kind of preparation that is required to be successful in interviews of those companies. Right. I think that focused approach is very, very important, rather than appearing for too many interviews and then getting rejected, right, and not being able to recover out of it, because there's
that,
huge
of course,
amount of
being
risk
very
involved.
important.
Yeah?
Is that actually what happens? Because I would imagine that if, when I sort of imagine what it would be like for me if I were in that scenario, I would want to sort of give everything my best shot. Don't leave anyone behind, even if it's not something that I wanted. But how does it really work practically?
Yeah, so the thing is that normally I think a lot of role is being played by the peer pressure. Normally what happens is, if you see your friends there applying to a company, you also apply to the company, right, because you don't know much about that company. So what happens is that you are driven by packages, you're driven by expectations from your peers, from your alumni. So I would say it's a very humbling process, because at the end of the day, you have to work in that company. But the thing is, normally what we see is expectations like where do we get placed, which company, which place. So I would say that it's very important for a student to understand what kind of work does he want to do in a career, and then accordingly apply for that company. Right. So that is very important, but that kind of due diligence is not done by most of the students. And that is the reason they end up maybe changing the jobs in a span of time, say next 1 year or next 2 years. And that is something which is not a very good trend, which is happening.
Right.
Nowadays.
Is that your experience too, Mr. Anand, that the students just tend to perhaps, and understandably so, grab whatever comes their way? They haven't really applied their minds to what is the best fit for them or studied the company.
Absolutely. I think most of the times students who come for interviews are not well prepared in terms of about the organization itself. And they're candid and honest enough to say, I haven't had the time because I just finished another interview, and this is the second one I'm taking in the day. I haven't had the time to even go through your website.
Do you hold that against them?
Not exactly, but it's a bit of a... It is difficult to accept someone coming in wanting a job in your organization and not knowing what your organization does. So it is, I mean, even if you don't want to hold it against them, it goes in overall scoring, it then tends to get the guy is casual. The person is not serious enough to take this organization. So to an extent, it goes against them. That's what I would sum it up.
So basically you're saying do your homework, because you would have some idea, I would imagine, of the kind of people who are going to be on campus. So maybe one tip that we're getting from you here is that do your homework, be somewhat prepared so that you're not confronted with a situation where you're saying, I'm sorry, I don't know enough about
Absolutely.
who you are or what you do.
Absolutely. And I think the 4-day process that you just talked about, where in 4 days you have hundreds of companies, like he rightly said, who come to campuses, it's important that you choose the companies that you want in terms of priority. In our days, we had 3 or 4 companies at max that we were targeting. Today, you have hundreds.
Correct.
Right? So the difference is huge today. So you, as a student, as an aspirant to an organization, you need to have your target organizations and go for them 100%.
Okay. What do you believe was that one moment which sort of swung it for you? Because you're one of them who's got a placement, right? You've just got a job. So was there a trick question? I need to ask you that.
So they'll give you a situation where where you might tend to compromise on your ethics and values. So do you take that stand continuously or not?
I see.
So that's how it goes in a trick manner.
And were you prepared for a situation like that? Were you, or was that? Sorry?
You have to be.
Yeah, okay.
You do expect that there
How do you prepare for it? You speak to people who've been there, done that. I mean, how do you prepare for it?
There are a lot of ways. I mean, first you actually speak to people who have actually worked in that organization, so that you get a basic feel of the organization as to how their culture is and how you would be actually fitting into that organization.
Okay.
Apart from that, you do prepare as to, you read about the organization, learn as to what they actually do, the kind of work they'll be actually coming to your campus with.
So
and then
you're
accordingly,
not saying that, I'm sorry, I don't know enough about you when it actually comes
you
up.
have to be.
Yes.
I mean, if you say that in the interview, actually
I
it's
think
on
your chances might be.
it's on the condition of the interviewer that
Right.
he rejects you or not.
Right.
Then the ball's out of your court.
Right.
So that's why you have to basically prepare, and at the end of the day, you have to present to the interviewer as to that you are someone that you actually say you are, and you are actually someone who can actually represent the face of the company to somewhere else.
Right.
So that is some things
Right.
that you actually need to work on very much.
Right. Right, Mr. Seri, there are lots of people who keep writing in to ask us that, how in those few minutes, are they really enough for a recruiter, for instance? Are those, when they're saying that in those 4 days, hundreds of companies come, I would imagine you barely get a few minutes with each aspirant. So what are the key things that you're looking for, and how do you gauge them?
Okay. As we were having a discussion, I think creating that good first impression is very, very important, whether through body language. He spoke about confidence, I think very, very important. And of course, rest would depend upon the sort of answers you give. If there are 20 people and 5 of them know about the company quite a lot, vis-a-vis there are other 15 who do not know anything, who didn't even get a chance to visit the website.
Right.
I think those 5 people are definitely going to stand out.
Right.
So it's very, very important to research a company thoroughly, research the industry thoroughly, to understand the key success factors, to look for, to find out about the kind of job which the organization is going to offer, the kind of career path that the organization is going to offer, and what is that you have in you because of which you should be selected for that particular role.